YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And since free agency started, there's been 4 trades that have gone down. More are going to go down as well. So I'm going to talk about those trades. I'm going to grade them. And we're going to talk about 3 somewhat new trade candidates. And I ranked some landing spots for those players. Those players are going to be Austin Ekeler, kind of the big one. Laramie Tunsil's name's been brought up a little bit. And then Courtland Sutton, not really a brand new one, but thinking it is more. Maybe it's a little more likely to happen because I heard the Broncos tried to sign Allen Lazard. Just more talk about it. So we'll talk about those guys as well. We've been grading free agency signings. There's 3 videos out. Definitely more to come. There's some big signings that happened just a little bit ago that we'll have to get in our next signing grades video. So join us on our channel. Like, subscribe to notifications on. We have full NFL coverage here. News, rumors, updates on our Twitter. It's an absolute must follow, especially this time of the year. It's on your screen. There's also a link pinned in the comments. Links pinned in the comments for our Discord, GLD Shop, our sponsor. Have their Bucks chain on right now. Liquid IV, Walk the Mock. Some more useful links down there. Check it out. So the first trade was very early yesterday. Day 1 of... officially, day 1's not till tomorrow. But day 1 of this offseason, really. And the Falcons got Jonnu Smith. Of course, we talk about these things on Twitter a little bit right when they happen, so maybe get an idea of my thoughts if you follow us on there. But Jonnu Smith goes to the Falcons. Patriots get a 2023 7th-round pick. And overall, I like this for both sides, actually. I mean, Jonnu Smith was pretty dangerous on the Tennessee Titans, and then he goes to the Patriots on a pretty big deal, and he was pretty disappointing, to be honest. So and you see they get a 7th-round pick for him, and you still think maybe he's a little more talented than a 7th-round pick. So the Falcons get a guy that's been disappointing but was good at one point, but goes to Arthur Smith, who was actually his offensive coordinator at the Tennessee Titans. So that's a good fit. It makes you feel a little bit better. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it makes you feel a little bit better about the situation. I actually gave both teams the same grade. I gave them both a B+ here. Now, and it's kind of rare for me to give a pretty good grade with the Patriots situation. We'll talk about that first. So the Patriots, somewhat rare, I'll say. Usually I give a terrible grade to a team that trades a great player for way under value. In this case, it's not a great player. But it did feel like, what Jonnu Smith's capable of, and them only getting a 7th-round pick. Maybe you think that's a little disappointing, perhaps, but this is a different type of situation, in my opinion, because, well, I don't think it's my opinion. I think it's a fact, actually, because it's one of those situations where, you have a player that the Patriots figured out they just really don't want. It just didn't work out. The original signing in the first place, you can give that an F. That is a little different, but it's a player that they just don't want. But what makes it a unique situation is if they cut him, they would actually lose cap space. If they cut Jonnu Smith, they would lose cap space. If they made him a post-June 1st cut and they clear a tiny bit, you'd have to wait till June 2nd till you get those savings. Not that the Patriots could have waited, I suppose, but tiny bit of savings. Now, if you trade him, it's a different story. A lot of players, if it's cut, trade, it's kind of the same savings. But if they trade them, they'd save over $4 million. If they make it a post-June 1st trade, you save over 10. I think it was like 10.8. So they actually could only free money right now by trading them right now, basically. And they did that. It's a guy that just didn't have any use to them. So actually, even though 7th-round pick is very little, it's something. But the main thing here is this really helps them clear some space. They weren't desperate for space or anything like that, which is good. You don't want to be in that situation, but I gave it a B+. Yeah, you only got a 7th-round pick. So I didn't want to, and it's a move you have to make to clear space, or you want to make because you don't want the player and you want to be able to clear space. You don't want to cut them. So it's not like the best situation, but overall it was pretty good actually for the Patriots. For the Falcons, I gave it a B+ as well. It's a guy that's been a little disappointing recently. So maybe that's the downside to some people. And he does have, over $10 million the Falcons are going to have to pay him this year, and the same thing next year. So you think, maybe that's a little risky because he hasn't been that great. So that's true. Maybe that's why I couldn't get it in the A range. But I still think the talent's in there with Jonnu Smith. We know he fits Arthur Smith's scheme very, very well. We've seen him play in it in Tennessee. Him and Pitts working together. Drake London as well. I like that a lot. I think that could be a dangerous group. It depends on the quarterback play, of course, but I think they're putting together a pretty dangerous group. So I'm pretty confident he's going to get back on track and play. Is he going to play as good as he did in Tennessee, which that last year looked pretty damn good? Maybe not, but he could get in that range there. So B plus for both sides there in this deal between the Falcons and the Patriots. And the Patriots bringing Bill O'Brien back. Maybe wants a spread, more of a spread look at times. And maybe Johnny Smith wasn't going to fit that on top of him already not really working out super well there. Next deal, it was three deals today. Shaq Mason, guard, been with the Patriots, was with the Bucks for a year. Seemed like a Tom Brady guy. He goes to the Texans along with a 2023 7th round pick, and the Bucks get a 2023 6th round pick. So it's a pick swap, 7 and 6, so just a round swap there. Now we did hear yesterday that the Bucks would probably cut Shaq Mason if they couldn't trade him. So I guess they didn't really gain anything, but they gained a round, I guess, but they didn't actually gain a pick here. In this situation. So I guess it's better than cutting him. Texans get a starting guard who, you think Shaq Mason, he's been around for a bit, played for the Patriots for a bit. He's actually only 29 years old. He's actually not as old as you think when you think Shaq Mason. So the Texans need another starting guard opposite of Kenyon Green, promising young first-round pick from last year. So I think it's a pretty good pairing there. It looks pretty good. So for this one, I thought it was pretty straightforward. Getting Shaq Mason isn't like wow, really, but at the same time, getting a quality starting guard for just a swap of late-round picks is kind of wow. So I gave it an A+, like really good value there in that. So, and the Bucks were going to cut him, so you could have tried to sign him then, but he could end up getting more money because guards were off the board in free agency already, and it's a weaker class of guards. He would have been the best one by far available, so it would have been a bidding war. Would he have chose the Texans then? So I think they had to trade for him if they wanted him, and they just swapped a 7th and a 6th, so I thought that was great for the Texans. The Bucks, you could say they were going to cut him anyways, but that doesn't make it a good trade, really. I thought you didn't really need to do a swap of the picks. I thought you could have even got a 6th-round pick for him if you're going to cut him. Perhaps some teams desperate for guards. Like I said, there's a shortage on good ones free agency, some off the board. So I feel like a team would have came along, but Bucks, they wanted to clear more space for to get under the cap tomorrow, which is the official start of the new league year there. So I guess. The reason I didn't give an awful grade like D range is because, again, they were going to cut him anyways. But, some people, when I give teams kind of a bad grade, which C- kind of is a bad grade, I always see the comments. People are like, well, they're going to cut him anyways. But that doesn't make it a good trade. That doesn't mean I got to make it a B. But it played a little part there, to keep it from being down there. And on top of that, the Bucks need and are trying to clear space. And then they go this route instead of restructuring deals. When you restructure deals, you push cap space into the future. The Bucks value those future years right now because they're kind of somewhere in that rebuild mode. Surprising to see them there, but that's where they're at since Tom Brady retired. So I would rather them not hurt future by restructuring. So that's somewhat of a positive. The same thing, at the same time, is like Shaq Mason. You could have used him for a bit here. I don't know who your quarterback's going to be, but you're making it harder on him, being worse at guard. It's probably going to be a young guy and maybe going to be a part of the future. So it's a guy that you could have, he wasn't really holding you back in terms of the cap space a whole lot, So I gave it a C-. There are some tiny positives in there that stop it from being like a really bad grade, but still does not make it a great one for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but better than some of these other teams we're about to talk about. The surprising one here, we thought maybe the Raiders would trade him, Darren Waller, that is, who was a star tight end and still has that star tight end ability in him, just has to stay healthy. He goes to the Giants in somewhat of a surprising deal, and the Raiders get a 2023 third-round pick in return. A lot of people surprised about this one, like we said. But the Giants get a big-time tight end if he's healthy here. And it's going to be fun to watch him in that Dayball system as well. and they're trying to get better with their weapons there. They get better in the tight end here with Darren Waller. There's a few things I like about this for the Giants. Well, the Raiders get a third-round pick. People kind of surprised by that. First, I'll say this. Well, let's show the grade first. I like showing the grade then talking about it. So I'm going to give the Giants an A+, and I'm going to give the Raiders a D+. For the Giants, I mean, yeah, I think it's a steal. It's a compensatory third-round pick. It's the pick they got for Kadarius Toney. It wasn't great that you needed receivers, so you almost needed Toney, so that wasn't great, but wasn't working out. Had some durability issues, I suppose, with them. But then you get that pick, but then you turn that pick around for Darren Waller. So that really wasn't even, your own pick to begin with. So that makes it look even better. And I really like the idea of him in Dayball's system as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then you look at the contract. I see some people saying, well, yeah, he kind of had a lengthy, pricey contract. And those people were like, well, yeah, he's probably worth it if he's healthy. And I kind of agree with that last part, but my point is people were kind of talking like the Giants are like they're locked in, maybe it's risky, and there always is a little bit of risk, but they're actually not locked into this contract after this year. There's some cap hits that are definitely, like 11, 12, over 12 million, but they're not locked in at all. So if he's just plain and simple, I don't imagine him being just not talented enough. So we won't even discuss that scenario. We'll discuss if he just plain and simple cannot stay healthy. I think they would give him more than just this year. Like if he was just beat up this year, and they probably would bring him back for another year. But then if continues to be the case, they can just cut him, and it's really no loss there. I mean, you did trade a third-round pick, and that is a little valuable, but they don't have that feeling that they're locked in here. You just get an extremely talented tight end. For a late third-round pick that wasn't originally your own. So I love that for the Giants. For the Raiders, it's tough because people are surprised by the third-round pick. I did not expect them to get more than the third round. Or I should say, I did not expect them to get a second-round pick or better. I did not expect that. So that would bring you back down to the third, and that's what they got. One, I thought, maybe it would be more than or maybe it would be like a third and a fifth, maybe a third and a fourth, but, picking, deep into the third round, pretty big difference than, kind of earlier third round, which I thought they maybe could get, versus the way later third round picks. So talking about value, maybe it's not super far off. I think the value doesn't sit right with me either. It's not great, but maybe it's not super far off like some people are talking about. It's a little far off, but the main thing here is forget the value. Why did you need to trade Darren Waller? That's my issue. Like, why couldn't you try to run it back one more year? It's not like his contract's ridiculous. It's not like you're desperate for cap space. I mean, they didn't really pay that much Jimmy Garoppolo. They didn't really pay that much to Kobe Myers. They're not spending on defense, tiny bit of money on average to below average guys. Why did you need to get rid of Darren Waller? Why are you this quick to give up on Darren Waller? So it's really not a huge value thing for me. It's just like, why did this seem like a desperation move to me in a way? That's what I don't love about the Raiders. Like, I like the Jimmy Garoppolo signing. I like the Jacoby Myers signing, but some things are a little confusing, not focusing on the defense a little bit, but kind of just McDaniels being so quick to give up on guys and just go get guys that's played for him in the past, insisting on that. In some scenarios, it'll work out pretty good. Like, Myers is going to be pretty good for them, I think. $11 million per year. I mean, besides the whole point, I think that was pretty good for them. But, why couldn't you run it back for another year? You did get a little bit undervalued as well. So, now you need a tight end, in my opinion. And the tight end, was always pretty valuable for, McDaniels, Patriots offenses too. So, why you kind of like devaluing the position, the situation here. So, wasn't thrilled about this for the Raiders. That's something I'm excited about. I hope Waller stays healthy because I'm curious about him and the Giants. I think it could be something special if he stays healthy there. And then Stefan Gilmore goes to the Cowboys. The Colts get a 2023 fifth round pick here. And we were talking about months and months ago that Gilmore should be a trade candidate, and during all this time, he was not being talked about as a trade candidate. I was surprised about that. If you follow us on Twitter, I heard some things that the Cowboys are maybe ready to make a splash move in the defensive backfield there, and I was trying to think of guys, and I made a tweet, and Gilmore was who I really highlighted, because the first person that popped in mind was Slay, because Slay was the most recent. Ramsey came off the board already. Slay was the most recent guy that is on the trading block, cornerback. So it's the first thing that popped in my mind, but I'm like instantly like, no, he's on the Eagles. He's on the Eagles. There's no way. And it actually turned out later on, we heard a report that that the Eagles actually called that was surprising. Called the Cowboys. I thought there'd be no way that the Eagles would trade Slay to the Cowboys, but apparently that was a possibility. So in my tweet, I was mainly highlighting Gilmore. I thought maybe Kenny Moore could be available from the Colts as well, but Gilmore made the most sense, and I was kind of thinking that deal could happen maybe this week. And then 5 minutes later, the deal happens. The Cowboys trade for Stefan Gilmore. So kind of blew my own mind with that one. So it's pretty cool. But, Gilmore goes to the Cowboys. And it's a man coverage corner that has the knowledge to play zone as well. We saw the Cowboys 2 years ago pretty much play all man. We saw last year they played still quite a bit more cover one, but they added some more zone into the mix as well. So Gilmore's going to fit great. It's going to fit great. Him and Trayvon Diggs, great duo there. Enough messing around with some other guys that are just okay at best, decent at best. So I love that. 1 year left on his deal, so you're not locked in big time here. Fantastic for the Cowboys. And the Colts, I was very surprised about them getting a fifth. I was talking about maybe a third would be it. So third and fifth, actually a bit of a difference there. And see if anything's going on. Nope, we're good. We're good. So for the grades, another one. We're getting out some A-pluses here. The Cowboys get an A-plus for that. Only having to give up a fifth for a legit starting corner. He's getting up there in age, but he's still playing at a very high level. He fits tremendously. You're not locked in with anything bad here. He's got a pretty team-friendly deal for this year. So that's an easy A-plus for the Cowboys. And the Colts, I'm surprised. I thought they would trade Gilmore. No one else was really talking about it. I thought they would trade it, and I thought I'd find myself giving them a pretty decent grade for trading Gilmore, but I did not expect them to take a fifth-round pick. And the reason for me thinking they had to trade Gilmore, when we talked about this for a bit, even during the season, was, the Colts will be in some sort of retool/rebuild mode. I don't think stage one of rebuild. I don't think, but they aren't. I do like which will be in the next grade signings video. Samson Ebukam, that was a sneaky good signing for the Colts. I like that one. I really like the fit, but that'll be in a different video. So I do like what they did there, but maybe they could be in some sort of rebuild based on what's going on right now. But either way, whether it's a rebuild, retool, or even neither, Gilmore, we knew let's just put it this way. We knew the Colts weren't going to go win the Super Bowl this year, right? We all knew that. So Gilmore, 1 year left on his deal, probably should get something for him now while his trade value might be still high, because he's a really good corner. And if you wait till next year, he's a free agent. You get a compensatory pick, and the compensatory pick would probably be anywhere between a third and maybe a fifth, but it could be a third or a fourth. Pretty good corner there. Somebody would have liked him. But yeah, my thinking was before he's a free agent, because some of these older guys, sometimes you're better off doing it now before it's too late. Get something for him. And I thought something was, I really did not think it was going to be later than a third. I thought there was a shot if they could get a second, but maybe there'd be a swap, like a fourth goes back. I was thinking that. I had a trade scenario for Gilmore in the past. And I remember that was kind of what I was deciding between. And then fourth, to me, there's actually it might sound weird, but there's actually a difference between a fourth and a fifth. I mean, there is a difference. Everybody knows that, fourth and a fifth, but it seems like a significant difference. But I thought his value was around a third. So, at this point, they were probably better off hanging on to him rather than getting the fifth, because, again, he could have helped you this year, but the Colts probably weren't going anywhere. Get down to the trade deadline where, corners get hurt. Everybody, every position has players that get hurt. Somebody could have needed Gilmore. They would have paid better than a fifth-round pick. And the compensatory pick, if you lost him in free agency, taking another step, I probably think it would have been better than a fifth. I think worst case was a fifth. Money probably be on a fourth. It's tough. It really depends on who you gain, who you lose, other signings in free agency. So it is tough to predict. But Yeah, so they really just gave him away here. It was a bit surprising. So there really isn't many positives here. I mean, you clear the space, but are you using that space? I guess we'll wait and see. And they signed a Bukum. It's not, you didn't need to do this for that, but or the other guys they brought back. They signed Matt Gay, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I really expected. I figured the Colts trade him for a third-round pick, and just the difference in trading Gilmore right now for a third and a fifth is just actually a major, major difference. Like, I probably would have graded it. A third-round pick, if they got, I probably would have gave it an A. Like, it's that much of a difference here when you're getting where it doesn't make much sense. You were probably just better off just riding it out with them, at least that trade deadline. It just makes that much of a difference here and just really helped out the Cowboys. And he had, the fact that he had a pretty damn team-friendly deal, I thought made him even more valuable, and that he wasn't locked into a long-term deal. He wasn't demanding an extension. Nobody wants to trade for Slay because he's a damn good corner. He had a ridiculous season, one top 5 corner easy, but he needs an extension. He's more pricey, and he needs an extension. You don't want to be locked in with anything, So that made Gilmore that much more valuable. So there were, I just said, like a million times. But yeah, so that was a surprising one there. But that's a really, really good job I gave out a lot of A+ here because they were just plain and simple steals. I mean, I feel like I had to. The one I'm most intrigued about is probably Waller. Watching Waller on the Giants is weird. Like, for some reason, not him in a good way for the Giants, but not him on the Raiders. But this was probably the best one, I'd say. If I had to pick an A+, Cowboys getting Gilmore for a 5th-round pick. Let's talk about Austin Ekeler, who yesterday we found out, and I'm probably going to surprise people with what's on your screen right now, but yesterday, Austin Ekeler, Chargers, it came out that they were trying to work on an extension, and they weren't close, didn't want to do it. Chargers didn't want to do it, perhaps. So Austin Ekeler requested permission to seek a trade. The Chargers granted that ability to seek the trade today. So he's going to go seek it. So that it's interesting. And then here are my landing spots. I do think there is a pretty realistic scenario, actually, why I put other than the Chargers up there. And I did that for every guy we're going to talk about. We're talking about 3 guys here. But I do think there's a realistic scenario where he goes out there. Because when he's going to go seek another trade, of course they're going to talk about value. And because he needs an extension. And there's going to be a handful of teams that are probably like, yeah, good player, we don't want to extend him. They won't even talk. They won't be like, nah, they won't even discuss with him. And there's going to be teams that talk with him, and then maybe, the price has to be right for them to be interested. Nobody's probably going to give him what he's asking for. It's just usually how it goes. And then he might go, and even if it's more than what the Chargers were going to give him, there's a chance that there could be somebody with more. But it's not that far off, and he may go, hey, I might as well stay with the Chargers. All right, let's go back and work on this deal and make a deal. Or there's a scenario where no one offers him more than what the Chargers wanted to give him. Or maybe the Chargers don't want to extend him at all. But I think there's a realistic scenario where he could stay with the Chargers is what I was getting at. But I haven't seen too many people talk about landing spots, but I've seen people I've seen some names blurted out. I haven't heard about the Seahawks at all, so this might be a little surprising that I threw the Seahawks at 1. And the teams in red are kind of my favorite, like most likely landing spots out of the bunch here. But I like the Seahawks. The Seahawks always valued having like a 1-2 punch. Sometimes 3, but 1-2 punch mainly. Right now they have Kenneth Walker, who was fantastic as a rookie last year, but they like having that 1-2 punch there. And you remember Walker was hurt to start. Nothing to be concerned about going forward, but to start or in preseason, going into last year. But, yeah, and then this is like a really good guy, a really good back, Austin Ekeler, but a guy that complements, Kenneth Walker very, very well with the pass-catching ability. It just makes a lot of sense, and they still have some cap space. I think they'll value the position, so it's one of those teams that could pay up a little bit. So, again, really complements their stud going to be second-year running back over there. The Falcons make sense as well. That since the new staff came in, they actually haven't valued running back super super high, which was surprising because Arthur Smith's coming from, Derrick Henry. And then this is a totally different running back, Derrick Henry, so not really related there, but not comparable. But they haven't valued it really at all. Like, we're going to roll with receiver turn running back and Patterson, who's been great. And then Algier, who was great last year. So then why would the Falcons do it? If they don't value it, they have those two guys. Well, Patterson's got one more year left in his deal. And do they extend him again? Here's another receiving running back that could really fit. And they have a lot of cap space now still and in the future. So it does make some sense there. But maybe an offseason too early. But he'd be a free agent next offseason. Then I go Panthers. I would like to fit in Reich's system. They're looking for another back, specifically a pass-catching guy like this. They have a lot of future cap. They haven't spent a lot of it really at all yet. Or not, I shouldn't say at all. But, they don't have Foreman back yet. They could be in on Jamal Williams, but this is a different style back. They do have Hubbard, but I can see it. They already did trade some picks, though. Obviously, in trading up for number 1, that'd be maybe why they hold off. The Bengals at 4. The Bengals are a team I almost want to put at 1 because they missed out on P. Ryan. He went to the Broncos. Mix in some talk about them moving on from him, but either way, he has 1 year left in his deal. Bengals like to pass the ball a ton. That's kind of their game plan. Pass the ball first, run second. Ekeler is a phenomenal pass-catching running back. I think it's a phenomenal fit, but two things. Why I want to put the Bengals at 1, why I can't. Would the Chargers trade to kind of another legit AFC contender? Trade a big-time piece like Ekeler? Maybe not. Another one, the Bengals are, they would have to extend Ekeler. Are they going to value running back that much? And are they going to extend, are they going to focus on, because extension, you think future money. Are they going to save that future money for Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins? Probably. So that's the tough part. But the Commanders, they released their pass-catching back in J.D. McKissick earlier today. But they do have Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. Eric Bieniemy didn't really value running back a whole lot with the Chiefs. Maybe that wasn't him. He was a running back himself, a running back coach. He might value a little bit more. Antonio Gibson actually going to be a free agent after this time next year. He's a little bit of a pass-catching guy. So then Ekeler or Brian Robinson makes some sense. As I'm talking out loud, maybe I kind of want to move the Commanders up a spot or two. Because that actually makes some sense there. They have some cap space too, but is that where they really want to put the stock into? The Bears, when I started working on this, I was originally going to have higher because they still needed a back. And they have some cap space. They could prefer these shifty, pass-catching guys moving forward. Could see him with Justin Fields, could really help, in that type of offense. They added Travis Homer, and that doesn't stop them from getting better at running back, but I'm kind of getting the feeling they might go Herbert running back 1 and then Homer running back 2. They signed Homer to $2.25 million to be the third string. Like, instant thought, I don't think so. It doesn't really feel like, an ideal logic there. But I did like the Bears a bit before that. We kept them on there as number 6. Kind of random number there, 6. But I like the Seahawks a bit. The more I was talking out loud about the Commanders, I like them a bit more. So maybe we could bump them up a little bit here live while I'm recording. Laramie Tunsil, next guy we'll talk about, the Texans left tackle. There was rumors like Sunday about watch out for him being a trade candidate. No one really bought it. It turned out that the rumors were kind of legit. Like, there was the Chiefs and the Texans actually talked about a deal. But then the Chiefs went on and signed Jawan Taylor, and reports say they're going to play him at left tackle. So that feels like it kind of removes the Chiefs. But there was some serious interest. And Jawan Taylor has played right tackle throughout his career. So I would not completely rule them out of swooping in and taking Laramie Tunsil still. But I did rank them third. Now, it is, every time Tunsil gets brought up as trade candidate, he just ends up remaining with the Texans. So it is hard to predict him to go anywhere else. So I'm not going to say, he's going to move. He's definitely going somewhere else. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But what I did hear recently is they're trying to shift some of his cap hit to the future. I don't know if they necessarily absolutely need to, so it is a little weird they want to do that so bad. And to do that, you either got to create void years on his deal, which I get the sense they don't want to do that because teams don't really want to have to do that. So the only two other options to not paying his cap hit this year or full cap hit would be extension or trading him. And are they ready to extend him? What does he want? They're still kind of in that rebuild. I think they would take another step further. Maybe past that rebuild. I don't know how everyone views rebuilding. I kind of think of like there's step 1, step 2, step 3. The Texans to be a little further along, but some of these signings say they're kind of in the same area maybe where they're going to be better than they were last year when it's all said and done with the rest of the offseason and the draft, but that's really not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they still kind of have the same philosophy on where they're at in terms of additions and everything. So by the time they get this going, where's Laramie Tunsil going to be at? Is he going to be extended with them? Things like that. So maybe they do want to move on from him. It's a possibility. I'd say the Patriots, Bill O'Brien, Brian back over there. The Patriots have been very quiet when it comes to tackles, and they need them very badly. They need a left tackle here. I could see the fit, and they have a lot of money. They have a lot of future money. I can see that. Commanders, I think, is another option. They signed Andrew Wiley. That's to play right tackle. They could just keep rolling with Charles Leno. He had an off year last year, but they could add a guy like this and then free $8 million by cutting Leno. That sounds ideal. You get better and you free that space. And they're making minor signings right now. They still have a bit amount of space. What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for something? Again, we couldn't completely rule out the Chiefs. And put the Steelers there because they're looking for a left tackle. I just get the sense right now, based on what they've shown me, two things: that they don't want to spend huge, and then you have to trade and then spend on money and extend him. And I feel like they're in on the rookie tackles in the draft class. So, but can't completely rule them out. I heard the Bears mentioned. I hear the Bears mentioned for pretty much everybody, especially tackles. Maybe, but rebuild team, do they want to bring him in, extend him, and then put him at left tackle, move Braxton Jones to right tackle? I don't know if I see it there. So, yeah, Laramie Tunsil's interesting. Well, I very well could see him staying with it. Both Ekeler, Tunsil, I can very well see them staying put. That's why I put other than the team, because I'm not saying like these teams are ranked ahead of their current team. And then one more, Courtland Sutton was, we got a longer list here because still a lot of teams looking for receivers. Courtland Sutton was mentioned as a trade candidate, maybe like not fully a week ago, or maybe. So it's not brand new, but keeps being brought up. They've had trade discussions about him and Judy and Hamler. I think out of the three more likely to trade, Sutton, I was kind of feeling, even though I think he's actually their best one. I think Judy has the most upside, but I think Sutton's their best one. I think he's quite underrated. But just get the sense that he's most likely to be traded. I could very well them seeing trading none of them because they're not super desperate. But then after I already kind of had that feeling that Sutton was most likely, Alan Lazard gets signed by the Jets, and there's a report by multiple sources that the Broncos were in on Alan Lazard. And Alan Lazard, Courtland Sutton, I think Courtland Sutton's definitely better. Not to take anything away from Lazard, but they're the same style of receiver. So that was the plan there. That was like Lazard was going to be the Sutton replacement. Now, does that mean for sure Sutton is gone? No. They did not land their replacement Lazard, so maybe they're feeling like, all right, can we find another guy? Or are we going to have to roll with Sutton? It sounds weird, like we're like almost like we're stuck with them. I don't know if that's how their thinking is. That's what it sounds like when I say it out loud, but I don't know if that's what they're thinking of. I think he's a heck of a receiver here, but it kind of tells me they're kind of getting ready to preparing for life without Sutton almost. I can see any of these landing spots really. The Packers lost out. They I don't know if they try to get Lazard back, but he's gone. Maybe you could argue they're looking for more of a slot guy. Could argue that, and Sutton's not really that guy, an outside receiver, but the Packers restructured. They cleared space, and they're going to clear space with Rodgers. Rodgers is besides the point, though. When teams restructure this money and clear space, it's usually sometimes, I should say, not maybe close to most of the time, or yeah, maybe most of the time. It's to just because you have to be under the cap, positive green cap space by the start of the league year, which is tomorrow in this case. So you pretty much have to restructure for that reason and that reason only. The Packers did that, but then they kept going to get not only positive cap space, but a good amount of positive cap space. You only do that because when you're restructuring, you're hurting your future a little bit. You're pushing money, you're pushing money, cap hit in the future, less money, less cap for your team in the future. So you only do that to make moves now, unless you're a team that just had to get to zero or around that range. That's not the case here. So the Packers got to be up to something. They got to be up to something. They're not making free agency signings. There's some really good free agents, a lot of free agents left. So maybe that's it. I feel like they got to be up more than just one thing, you know. So they got to be up to something here. The Rodgers trade issue, and I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about gaining people. So they need a receiver. They lost Lazard. I think the Broncos viewed Lazard as a Sutton replacement, even though I think Sutton's better. So that's why the Packers made some sense there. Patriots make sense. They have a lot of cap space. They're in need of a receiver. They lost Jacoby Myers, different style receiver. But maybe they felt like they had a replacement for his specific position. They could use Sutton, or they could just view Parker as just, you know, they'd rather have Devontae Parker. You could use both, but maybe a similar style receiver there. The Cardinals make some sense. So more so if they trade DeAndre Hopkins. With me ranking this high, I'm kind of banking on them trading DeAndre Hopkins. Sounds like they're asking a little too much right now, but they move on from him. And they need a receiver. They got some decent guys in there, but they're all smaller, speedy receivers. You need an outside guy. And the Cardinals, it feels like they're in some sort of a rebuild, maybe not stage one, but Courtland Sutton's only 27. He's got a pretty team-friendly contract the next few years. He can be part of that and can help you out right now. You know, Murray's not going to be out all next year. He's going to need some help out there. So I thought that made some sense there. And the more I talk about it, the more I like it too. I thought that made some sense. And they're letting guys go in free agency. For the most part, they're not spending. They have some money. It'd be pretty cool if they can get a day 2 pick for Hopkins and then flip it. Maybe not use that pick they got, but be a little bit lesser of a pick and get Sutton. That'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be pretty big there. Ravens, I would like to put the Ravens higher, but they have, focus on Lamar Jackson situation. That's going to affect the cap space, whether it's on the tag still, whether he's gone, whether it's extension. So it's a little tricky to make these types of moves. They need a receiver pretty badly. I heard they were in on Allen Lazard, so it kind of makes sense. And again, he's got a pretty good team-friendly contract moving forward. Titans looking for another guy here. They're in some sort of retool mode. He can be a part of that. I think compliment Treylon Burks a little bit, or pretty well. They have a lot of future cap space. Again, pretty team-friendly moving, like $13 million moving forward, but you need some cap space. Cowboys looking for another guy. I think maybe more likely to a speedster on the outside, but this could be a splash move here to get better at the receiver position. Vikings looking for another receiver to replace Adam Thielen. So it's a possibility. I think the other teams are more likely. And the Panthers, who are actually going to bring in Adam Thielen for a visit tomorrow, but could use another receiver there. As well, after trading DJ Moore, kind of needed one as it was. But yeah, so a lot more landing spot. I mean, you can even talk about more teams than just this, but definitely some interesting guys here. We'll keep an eye out for what's going on with these guys. We'll continue to talk with you guys on Twitter, and more trades will happen. We'll break them down. Maybe more trade candidates come out too. We'll break them down first on Twitter, here on YouTube. After that, that's kind of how it always works. But yeah, fun time of the year. More free agency signings going down probably as I'm talking. There's more that we didn't get the chance to grade yet. That'll be the next video tomorrow, and we're gonna have several more of those videos. So hopefully you join us for all of our NFL content here at the Goat House. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Any link you're looking for, pin in the comments. It's gonna do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.